Millionaire CEO's wife left him after leg amputation. He found love once again in the arm of his black doctor. When a ruthless accident left Millionaire CEO Adrian Cole without his leg, his wife walked out without a backward glance. Broken, bitter, and ready to shut the world out, he never expected his new physical therapist, a strong, unshakable black doctor named Maya Thompson, to break through his walls. But as shared wounds turn into fragile trust, rumors and fear threaten to tear them apart. In the end, they must decide, cling to the past that hurt them, or risk everything for a love they never saw coming. This is a story about loss, healing, and the courage to love again. Thank you for sticking around with me, my wonderful story family. If you're already hooked in for today's story and ready to enjoy it, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from, because tomorrow I will be giving you another story just as interesting as this one, and you don't want to miss it. Now let us begin. The rain lashed against the glass walls of the penthouse, a restless rhythm that mirrored the storm inside Adrian Cole's chest. Once, this view of the city, its glowing skyline stretching like an empire at his feet, had filled him with pride. Tonight it mocked him. The lights felt distant, unreachable, as though the city had quietly decided it no longer belonged to him. Adrian leaned back in the leather armchair, the one positioned where no mirror or reflection could betray his new silhouette. The right pant leg of his tailored trousers lay empty, neatly pinned, like some cruel reminder of what he had lost. He pressed a glass of bourbon to his lips, but the burn no longer carried the warmth it once did. Instead, it numbed, the way ice numbs skin before frostbite sets in. He had been many things in his 50 years, a visionary, a leader, a millionaire, a husband. But never this. Never broken. Never diminished. The sound of heels clicking against marble drew him from his thoughts. His wife, Clarissa, entered with the effortless grace of a woman who belonged to glittering parties and red carpets. Her beauty was immaculate, sculpted, practiced, yet tonight her face held none of the softness he craved. "You should eat," she said flatly, setting a plate on the table. "I'm not hungry," Adrian muttered. "You've been saying that for weeks." "Maybe because I'm not hungry for pity." His voice cracked sharper than he intended. Clarissa sighed, her arms crossing, diamond bracelet catching the city lights. "It's not pity. It's reality. You need strength if you ever want to." "Walk again," he snapped, slamming the bourbon glass down so hard it cracked. "Spare me the pep talks. We both know nothing will ever be the same." Her lips thinned. For a moment, silence stretched between them, heavy, dangerous. Finally she spoke, her words like knives. "You're not the man I married, Adrian." The sentence hung in the air, and with it, the truth he had feared since waking in that sterile hospital room, that his worth had been measured in his power, his presence, his perfection. And now, without those, she saw nothing left. Clarissa turned without waiting for a reply. Her perfume lingered, sharp and sweet, as the echo of her heels faded. Adrian stared at the half-shattered glass, chest hollow. Somewhere deep, a whisper taunted him, half a man. Less than before. Across the city, another story unfolded. Dr. Maya Thompson tightened her ponytail as she walked briskly down the hospital corridor. It was nearing midnight, but the halls buzzed with the low hum of beeping monitors, whispered conversations, and hurried footsteps. The hospital never truly slept. It pulsed, alive, a world of its own where pain and hope lived side by side. Maya's scrubs bore faint creases from a 14-hour shift. Her hands smelled faintly of antiseptic despite countless washings, and her eyes, warm, steady, hid the exhaustion she carried like a second skin. She paused outside a patient's room, glancing over the chart. Another man with complications after surgery. Another family holding vigil, praying for miracles. She'd seen so many faces in her 10 years as a physician. Some she saved, some she lost. Each one carved a small piece of her heart, but she never let it show. To patients, she was the calm anchor in chaos. To herself, she was a fortress, built high and strong after too many years of giving love to people who only saw her skin before they saw her soul. Her phone buzzed. A message from her mother. "Still working? Remember to rest, Maya. You can't heal the world if you break yourself. She smiled softly, pocketing the phone. If only it were that simple. By dawn, 2 lives, one unraveling, one steadfast, were inching closer, though neither knew it yet. Adrian sat in the dim glow of his penthouse, staring into the darkness like a man peering into a grave. Somewhere else, Maya washed her hands in the hospital sink, humming under her breath, preparing for her next patient. Their worlds had no reason to collide. Yet fate, cruel and kind in equal measure, had already begun weaving the threads. If you lost the very thing that defined you, would you still believe you deserved love? Comment below. I want to know what you'd hold on to when everything else is gone. The elevator ride down to the clinic floor the next morning felt endless. Adrian sat rigid in his wheelchair, his assistant pushing quietly behind him. His jaw was tight, his gaze fixed on the digital numbers glowing above the doors. He hated this, hated being carted around like fragile cargo. The hallway smelled faintly of antiseptic and coffee, the kind of scent that clung to hospitals. Nurses bustled past, clipboards in hand, but Adrian barely looked up. He could feel their glances, curious, assessing, some even pitying. That, more than the phantom pain in his missing leg, made his stomach twist. The receptionist offered a polite smile as they checked in. "Mr. Cole, Dr. Thompson will see you shortly. Please wait in exam room 3. Dr. Thompson, he thought grimly. Another one. Another stranger with kind eyes and scripted reassurances. He clenched the armrests of his chair, his knuckles pale. Maya skimmed his chart before entering the room. She already knew the name, Adrian Cole. A figure whose face had appeared in magazines and on the covers of financial journals. A man who once embodied untouchable success. Now reduced, at least physically, to vulnerability. She inhaled deeply, steadying herself. Patients like this could be the most difficult, not because of their condition but because of their pride. Pride could suffocate a man quicker than any disease. She pushed the door open gently. Adrian glanced up, expecting another white-coated stranger to offer polite sympathy. Instead, he found a woman whose presence was both commanding and calm. Her gaze was steady, not intrusive, her smile faint, not forced. "Mr. Cole," she greeted, her voice low and even. "I'm Dr. Thompson. I'll be overseeing your rehabilitation." He studied her, taking in the professionalism in her stance, the warmth in her tone. And yet, the instinctive wall within him rose higher. "They keep sending me new doctors," he said flatly, "as if rotating them around will change the fact that I'll never be what I was." Her eyes didn't flicker. Instead, she set the chart aside and pulled up a chair. "I'm not here to change the past, Mr. Cole. I'm here to help you with the future." He gave a sharp laugh, bitter and humorless. "Future? That's rich. Do you have any idea what it feels like to go from conquering boardrooms to not even being able to stand to pour a drink?" Maya didn't flinch. "I don't claim to know your life. But I do know this, the body doesn't define the man. And right now, your future isn't gone, it's waiting for you to decide if you want to fight for it." For a moment, silence. His throat tightened against words he wouldn't let out. Something in her tone, calm, firm, refusing to pity him, struck deeper than he expected. Finally, he muttered, spoken like someone who doesn't know what it's like to lose everything. Maya tilted her head slightly. "You might be surprised at what I've lost." Their eyes locked. It was only a second, but it lingered. A flicker of recognition passed between them. Two people scarred in different ways, both carrying more than they showed. Later that night, Adrian replayed the encounter in his mind as he sat alone in his penthouse. Her words irritated him, and yet they clung to him. The body doesn't define the man. Why did those words feel more dangerous than comfort? And across the city, Maya scribbled notes into his file, her hand pausing. She had treated hundreds of patients, yet something about him unsettled her, a storm under the surface she couldn't ignore. She shook it off, setting her pen down. "He's just another patient," she whispered to herself. But deep down she knew. Adrian Cole wasn't just another patient. The threads of their lives had begun to weave, whether either of them wanted it or not. The penthouse was unnervingly silent that evening. Adrian sat at the dining table, Untouched plates laid out in front of him like props in a forgotten play. Clarissa had insisted on one last dinner together. He should have known the words carried finality. She poured herself wine but didn't pour him any. The small act wasn't lost on him. Once, she would have filled his glass before her own without thinking. Now she didn't even glance at him. He broke the silence first. "You've already packed your things." Her fork clinked against porcelain, hand freezing mid-motion. She recovered quickly, dabbing at her lips with a napkin. "I can't keep pretending, Adrian." His stomach nodded. "Pretending what?" "That this," she gestured vaguely toward his wheelchair, his empty pant leg, the stillness in the air, "is something I can live with." The words cut deeper than the surgeon's scalpel ever had. He clenched his jaw, struggling to breathe past the heat rising in his chest. "I almost died," he rasped. "I lost a leg, Clarissa, not my soul." Her eyes narrowed, her voice icy. "You lost the man you were. And that's the man I married. The man who walked into a room and owned it. The man who made me feel alive just by standing next to him." Now, she shook her head, unable or unwilling to finish. "Now you're half a man." The unspoken words screamed louder than anything she had said. He shoved his plate aside, appetite gone. "So that's it? I fought my way back from death, and you're leaving because I'm not perfect anymore." "I need more than survival, Adrian," she said flatly. "I need a man who makes me feel alive. Not a man drowning in bitterness and bourbon." Her chair scraped against the marble floor as she stood. Her heels clicked toward the door, each step a hammer driving nails into his chest. "Clarissa," his voice cracked raw. But she didn't look back. The door shut behind her, final and cold. Adrian sat motionless, the silence crushing. His chest heaved, but no tears came. He had learned long ago that tears solved nothing. But the hollowness inside him spread like wildfire, burning away the last fragments of pride. For the first time, he believed he truly was alone. The next morning, his assistant forced him to attend a rehab session. He didn't argue. He didn't have the energy. His eyes were bloodshot, his face shadowed with stubble. Maya noticed instantly when he rolled into the room. He looked different, emptier, as though something had been carved out of him overnight. "Rough morning?" she asked carefully. He gave a bitter laugh. "Rough life." She studied him, resisting the urge to pry. "We'll start simple today. Just some strength exercises for your core." He went through the motions, mechanical, silent. Halfway through, his hands trembled. He dropped the resistance band with a growl of frustration, slamming his fist into the armrest. "Pointless," he muttered. "All of this. Pointless." Maya crouched beside him, her voice low but firm. "Nothing about this is pointless. You're rebuilding yourself. Every rep, every breath, it matters." He turned to her, eyes glassy, voice breaking. "She left me." The words hung heavy in the air. Maya's breath caught. She hadn't expected him to admit it so bluntly. "She said I wasn't the man I was," Adrian continued, voice raw. "And maybe she's right. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm nothing now." Something inside Maya shifted. The guarded professional in her wanted to maintain distance, to keep the moment clinical. But the woman in her, the human who knew loss, who knew abandonment, couldn't stay detached. She laid a hand gently on his shoulder. "You're still a man, Adrian. Maybe not the same one. But sometimes, the man who rises from the ashes is stronger than the one who never burned." His chest tightened. No one had spoken to him like that, not with pity, but with belief. His eyes met hers, and for a moment the world stilled. Adrian wheeled himself into the therapy room with the stiffness of a man heading into battle. His jaw was clenched, his eyes narrowed, and every muscle in his upper body screamed with tension. He hadn't slept properly since Clarissa walked out. The empty penthouse echoed with ghosts, every corner reminding him of the life he once commanded. Maya noticed instantly. His movements were sharp, almost aggressive. The moment she handed him the resistance bands, he yanked at them as though punishing the rubber for daring to stretch back. "You're pushing too hard," she warned softly. "Don't tell me what I can handle," he snapped, his voice laced with venom. She raised an eyebrow, unfazed. "If you tear a muscle, you'll set yourself back weeks. Is that what you want?" His jaw worked furiously, but he didn't answer. Instead, he jerked the band again, sweat beading on his forehead. His arms trembled, yet he kept going, teeth gritted. "Adrian," she said more firmly now, stepping closer. "You're not listening to your body." He dropped the band, letting it snap against the floor. His chest heaved as he glared up at her. "You think you know my body better than I do?" There it was, the fury, the wounded pride, the wall he kept rebuilding brick by brick. Maya crossed her arms, meeting his glare with steady eyes. "No," she said quietly, "but I know pain when I see it. And I know when a man is trying to punish himself instead of heal." For a heartbeat, silence. His nostrils flared, his fists clenched against the armrests of his chair. Then he laughed bitterly, the sound hollow. "You think you've got me figured out already, doctor?" he sneered. "I'm just another case to you, aren't I? Another broken man to fix, so you can pat yourself on the back and say you did your job." Her throat tightened, but she kept her voice even. "If that's what you believe, then you don't know me either." Their eyes locked, the air charged with unspoken tension. Adrian broke first, wheeling himself back, creating space as though her closeness burned. "Save your speeches," he muttered. "I don't need your pity. Or your hope." Maya exhaled slowly after he left, her chest tight. She reminded herself, he's a patient. Nothing more. Don't let him get under your skin. But the truth gnawed at her. He had gotten under her skin. His pain wasn't just physical. It was the raw, messy kind that mirrored pieces of her own. That night, she sat alone at her small kitchen table, dinner untouched. Memories she rarely allowed to surface came flooding back. The man she once loved, who had walked away when the world judged their relationship too inconvenient. The whispered words of colleagues who doubted her abilities not because of her skills, but because of the color of her skin. She had built walls high enough to keep anyone from climbing in. And yet, somehow, Adrian's brokenness was slipping through the cracks. She pushed the thoughts away, returning to her notes. Professional. Detached. Boundaries, she reminded herself like a mantra. The next day the cycle repeated. Adrian resisted every instruction, refusing help with balance exercises, scoffing at her encouragement, masking his exhaustion behind sarcasm. Maya stayed steady, but inside she battled frustration. At one point, she finally snapped. "You know what your problem is, Adrian?" she said sharply, stepping into his line of sight. He looked up, startled. "Enlighten me. You're so determined to prove you don't need anyone that you're willing to sabotage yourself. You'd rather fail on your terms than succeed with help." His eyes blazed. "Damn right. Because the moment I depend on someone, they walk away." Just like she did. The words slipped out before he could stop them, raw and jagged. Silence followed, the kind that said more than shouting ever could. Maya's gaze softened, but she didn't reach for him. "Not everyone leaves, Adrian," she whispered. His throat tightened, but he looked away, unable, unwilling, to believe her. That night, Adrian sat in his penthouse again, the city lights blinking like indifferent stars. He poured himself another drink, but her words echoed in his mind. Not everyone leaves. He wanted to scoff, to dismiss it. Yet deep down, a part of him, a part long buried, wanted to believe it. And somewhere across the city, Maya stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror, whispering to herself, "You're not here to save him. You can't afford to fall." Both of them, in their own ways, were fighting the same enemy, themselves. The storm rolled in just after sunset, thunder rattling the hospital windows. Adrian had been scheduled for a late therapy session, one he almost skipped, but his assistant had dropped him off earlier, and when the downpour began, it became clear he wouldn't be going anywhere for a while. The elevators buzzed with delays, taxis outside refused to take fares in the sheets of rain, and the streets were already flooding. Maya sighed when the nurse handed her the note. "Cole's stuck here until storm clears. Wants to cancel session." She tucked the note into her pocket and made her way to the rehab wing. She knew what she'd find, Adrian sulking in the corner, likely staring at his phone, pretending he didn't care. And there he was, his wheelchair angled toward the window, the city lights blurred by rain streaks. His jacket was draped over the back, his shirt sleeves rolled up. The glow of his phone screen lit his face, but his eyes weren't moving. "You know," she said as she entered, Storms don't care about your schedule, Mr. Cole. But muscles still need training. He didn't turn. I'm not in the mood to be your project tonight, doctor. You think you get to heal only when you're in the mood. She moved closer, pulling out a balance board. Sorry to disappoint you. The human body doesn't wait for permission. Something in her tone, dry, almost teasing, made his lips twitch, though he quickly masked it. She set the board down in front of him. Come on. 5 minutes. Then you can brood by the window all you want. For once, instead of snapping back, Adrian gave a reluctant sigh. You're persistent, I'll give you that. She smirked. Occupational hazard. The session began awkwardly. He grumbled through each exercise, but she stood close, steadying him when his balance wavered. Her hand brushed his arm once, and he felt the warmth linger far longer than it should have. Again, she instructed. He groaned. You're merciless. Compliments won't get you out of this. That was a compliment? He arched a brow, and for the first time in weeks, something like a smile tugged at his lips. It caught her off guard, and she quickly turned her focus back to the chart. Don't get used to it. But her chest fluttered, despite herself. Hours passed, the storm showing no sign of letting up. The hospital had begun to quiet, hallways dim, voices hushed. Maya returned to check on him one last time before heading home, only to find him still in the therapy room. He was staring at the storm again, but softer this time, less like a man caged and more like a man remembering. You're still here? She asked. Storm's not letting up. Figured I'd wait it out. You could have gone back to your room. Too many people there. His voice was low. Too many eyes. Something in his tone stopped her. Without overthinking, she sat across from him. For a while neither spoke. The rain did all the talking, hammering against the glass. Finally, Adrian broke the silence. Do you ever wonder if storms are just the world's way of forcing people to stop running? Maya tilted her head. You think you're running? He gave a hollow laugh. Every day. From who I was. From who I am. From the fact that the woman who vowed to love me walked out the moment I wasn't perfect anymore. Her throat tightened. She should have kept her response clinical. But the truth slipped out. Then she didn't deserve the man you were. Or the man you are. His gaze snapped to hers, searching, as though he couldn't decide if she was lying to comfort him, or if she truly believed it. And for the first time, he didn't push her words away. That night stretched on. The storm outside made leaving impossible, and the hospital became its own world. Just them, the hum of machines, and the faint glow of fluorescent lights. They spoke in fragments. He told her about his company, how he built it from nothing, how every victory had felt hollow once the accident stripped it away. She shared bits of her journey. How she fought her way through medical school, the battles no one saw, the people who doubted her. Neither gave too much. Both gave just enough. By the time the storm began to fade, something unspoken lingered between them. Not trust. Not yet. But recognition. Two souls, one scarred by abandonment, the other by walls, forced into proximity long enough to realize that maybe, just maybe, they weren't as alone as they believed. The morning sun filtered weakly through the rehab center's windows, casting long stripes across the polished floor. Adrian was already there, earlier than usual. He hadn't slept much. Instead, he found himself replaying fragments of last night's storm, the quiet conversation, the fleeting sense that maybe he wasn't entirely invisible anymore. When Maya entered, clipboard in hand, she paused. He was staring out the window, but his posture was different, not slouched, not rigid, but waiting. You're early, she said softly. He turned, offering a shrug. Couldn't sleep. Her brow lifted slightly. That makes two of us. Their eyes lingered on each other longer than necessary, before she looked down at the chart. Let's get started. The session began with steady silence. Balance boards, resistance training, controlled breathing. But beneath the surface, words pressed against Adrian's chest, demanding release. Finally, he let them out. My father used to say men don't cry, he muttered between breaths. Said tears were weakness. Said weakness made you pray. Maya's hands stilled. She didn't interrupt. He left when I was 10, Adrian continued, voice rough. Walked out one night and never looked back. My mother, she did what she could. But I swore then I'd never be like him. I'd never be powerless. Never give anyone a reason to leave me. He paused, sweat dripping down his temple. Funny how that worked out, huh? Spent 50 years proving I was untouchable. Then one accident, one damn twist of fate, and she left anyway. Maya's throat tightened. She had seen the outlines of his pain before, but hearing it aloud made it raw, almost unbearable. She crouched beside him, meeting his eyes. You were a boy who made a promise to survive. That's not weakness, Adrian. That's resilience. His jaw clenched, eyes darting away. But her words burrowed in. Later that week, the tables turned. Maya was writing notes at her desk when Adrian's voice cut through. Why do you do this? Long hours, endless patience, walls so high no one can climb them. She froze. Excuse me? You heard me, he said quietly. You help people walk again, breathe again, live again. But what about you? What do you get out of it? Her instinct was to deflect, to laugh, to brush him off. But his gaze was steady, piercing. For once, she couldn't hide. My father died when I was 17, she admitted, voice barely above a whisper. Heart attack. He was my anchor. And suddenly he was gone. After that, I decided if I couldn't save the people I loved, maybe I could save strangers. Adrian's expression softened, but she continued before he could speak. And love. She gave a bitter smile. I tried once. College sweetheart. He said he loved me. But when his family found out, suddenly I wasn't good enough. Wrong skin, wrong story. He left without even a fight. After that, I promised myself I'd never give anyone the power to break me like that again. Silence pressed heavy between them. Two promises made long ago. One to never be weak, one to never be hurt. Both had built walls. Both were paying the price. That night, Adrian lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. For the first time, he saw himself not as a victim of the accident, but as a boy still trying to prove something to a ghost. Across the city, Maya sat at her kitchen table, her father's old photograph in her hands. She whispered softly, I'm still fighting, Daddy. But maybe it's time to stop fighting alone. Their stories, though different, had begun to echo. And echoes have a way of drawing people closer. Do you believe our past defines who we love, or can love rewrite the past? Share your story in the comments. I want to know if you've ever rebuilt trust after heartbreak. The weeks that followed felt different. Subtle, unspoken, but undeniable. Adrian still grumbled during therapy, but his resistance had softened. When Maya corrected his posture, he no longer snapped, he listened. When his balance faltered, he no longer jerked away from her steadying hand, he allowed it. And one afternoon, in a rare moment of humor, he even teased her. Careful, doctor, he said as she guided him across the parallel bars. At this rate, I'll start to think you like spending time with me. Her lips curved, despite herself. Don't flatter yourself, Mr. Cole. You're just my most stubborn patient. Stubborn and charming, he countered, and the glimmer in his eyes startled them both. She shook her head, biting back a smile. Focus on walking, not talking. But inside, her chest fluttered. One Saturday, the therapy center was quiet, nearly deserted. Maya had agreed to meet him for an extra session, though she told herself it was strictly professional. He arrived earlier than expected, rolling his chair in with a mischievous look. You ever dance, doctor? He asked out of nowhere. She blinked. Dance? Yes. You know, two people, music, maybe a little rhythm? Or has medical school drained every ounce of fun out of you? Her brows shot up. Are you suggesting you want to dance? I can't, he said with a shrug, then smirked. But maybe you can teach me again one day. The words hung between them, loaded with something far more than curiosity. For a moment, the image of his hand in hers, the sound of music, the warmth of closeness, it made her pulse quicken. She cleared her throat. Let's start with walking before we get to waltzing. Fair enough, he said, but his grin lingered. Later that evening, when the session ended, the power flickered. The old building groaned, lights stuttering before plunging the therapy room into semi-darkness. Emergency lamps hummed faintly, casting everything in a soft, golden glow. Maya reached for her phone, but Adrian's voice stopped her. "Don't," he said quietly. "It's nice." Like the world finally shut up for a second. She hesitated, then slipped the phone back into her pocket. They sat in the half-light, listening to the muffled city beyond the windows. "I used to be terrified of silence," he admitted after a pause. "In my house growing up, silence meant someone was angry, meant something was about to break. So when I built my life, I filled it with noise, meetings, parties, deals. I thought silence meant failure. But now," his voice softened, "now it feels like the only thing I can trust." Maya's chest ached. She wanted to say something, but instead she let her hand rest gently over his, just for a second. His eyes flickered down, surprised, but he didn't pull away. And for a heartbeat, the silence wasn't empty. It was full. The next day he surprised her. "I had my driver bring something," he said as she entered his room. On the bedside table sat 2 takeout bags from a small Jamaican restaurant across town. Her eyebrows shot up. "How did you?" "I asked around. Thought you might be tired of hospital food." He gestured awkwardly. "You've done a lot for me. Figured it was time I returned the favor." Maya's throat tightened. She hadn't told him about her love for Jamaican food. It had slipped out weeks ago when she was exhausted, a memory of her father's cooking. And he had remembered. She sat with him, sharing the food, laughter spilling between bites of jerk chicken and rice. He asked questions, not about her credentials or her routines, but about her. What books she loved. What music she listened to on long drives. What her favorite childhood memory was. For hours, the roles of doctor and patient blurred, replaced by something gentler. Something fragile. That night, after she left, Adrian lay awake not in pain, but in something dangerously close to hope. And Maya, at home, found herself smiling without reason, her cheeks warm as though she'd just been given a gift she didn't know she needed. Both knew it was fragile. Both knew it was temporary. But for the first time in a long time, both allowed themselves to wonder, what if it wasn't? It happened on a Tuesday. Maya was late for rounds, balancing charts in one hand and coffee in the other, when she noticed the change in the air. Nurses whispered in corners. Orderlies avoided her gaze. And when she reached the rehab wing, Adrian wasn't waiting in his usual place. Instead, he sat stiffly in his chair, jaw tight, eyes cold. A folded magazine lay on his lap. "Good morning," she greeted carefully, setting her things down. He didn't answer. "Adrian." Finally, he held up the magazine. The headline blared. "Fallen CEO, Broken Fortune. Adrian Cole's Private Rehab Romance." Her breath caught. The article was littered with invasive photos, grainy shots of them in the therapy room, her hand resting on his arm, them laughing over takeout. The piece painted her as a gold-digger doctor targeting her vulnerable billionaire patient. "Oh my God," she whispered. His voice cut like glass. "Did you know about this?" Her head snapped up. "What? Of course not. Then how did they get these?" He slapped the magazine, his voice rising. "Private moments, Maya. Things only you were close enough to see." She recoiled. "You think Adrian, I would never." But the years of betrayal in his bones screamed louder than her words. His wife leaving, his father abandoning, the world treating him as a spectacle. His pain twisted into fury. "You wanted a story, didn't you?" he spat. "The noble doctor healing the broken man. Perfect for your career. Perfect for your ego." Her chest burned. "How dare you? Do you really think so little of me?" He wheeled back sharply, eyes hard. "I think people always leave, Maya. One way or another. And I was a fool to believe you'd be different." The words hit her like a blade. She stood frozen as he turned away, the space between them filled with all the things they hadn't said. That night, Maya sat in her apartment, staring at the article again and again. Each word was poison. Each photo felt like a violation. But what hurt most wasn't the gossip. It was his doubt. After everything she had shared, everything they had built, he still believed she could betray him. Tears pricked her eyes, but she blinked them away. "Never again," she whispered. "I won't beg someone to trust me." Adrian sat in darkness, the magazine crumpled in his hand. His chest ached, not from his injury, but from the hollow silence that followed their fight. He wanted to believe her. God, he wanted to. But the old voices were louder. Don't be weak. Don't trust. Don't love. And so, for the first time since the accident, he truly felt alone. The days that followed were brutal. She avoided his sessions. Another doctor filled in. He stopped asking for her. Their absence from each other was louder than any words. The bond they had built, fragile and beautiful, lay shattered on the floor. And both wondered, had they been foolish to believe in love at all? Would you have forgiven in Maya's place, or doubted like Adrian? Which side of this heartbreak do you understand more? Drop your thoughts below. I'm curious to hear your take. The rehab wing felt colder without her. Adrian noticed it immediately. The new therapist was polite, skilled enough, but her presence was clinical, detached. There were no sparks of humor, no understanding glances, no gentle challenges to his pride. It was efficient. Empty. At night, Adrian found himself staring at the ceiling, the shadows of the room pressing heavy. The magazine still lay crumpled on his desk. He hadn't thrown it away, as if some part of him couldn't stop circling the wound it had left. But in the silence, he heard his own words echo back. I was a fool to believe you'd be different. And the truth stung. Because hadn't she been different? Hadn't she been the first person in years to look at him like more than a paycheck or a broken man? He rubbed his temples, frustration mounting. Damn it, Adrian. What if you're the one who ruined the only good thing left? Across the city, Maya sat with her father's old photo propped against a stack of unpaid bills. Her apartment was quiet, but her mind was chaos. She replayed every moment with Adrian, the jokes, the silence, the food they shared. The way he looked at her when the world went dark, as if she were his anchor. And then the memory of his accusation cut through it all. She had been here before. Loved, only to be doubted. Believed in, only to be abandoned. She promised herself long ago she'd never beg for love again. But this time, it was different. Because she wasn't afraid of losing him. She was afraid he'd lose himself, the man who had finally begun to let light back in. Maya closed her eyes, whispering into the silence. Do I walk away to protect myself, or do I risk everything to fight for him? Days stretched. Neither reached out. Both pretended to be fine. But inside, both were unraveling. Until one evening, Adrian found himself rolling into the therapy room long after hours, the lights dim, the place empty. He gripped the parallel bars, sweat beading on his forehead as he tried to walk alone. One step. Another. His leg buckled, sending him crashing down hard onto the mat. He cursed, slamming his fist against the floor. Damn it! The sound echoed through the halls. He didn't hear the footsteps at first. But then, Adrian? He froze. Slowly, he looked up. Maya stood in the doorway, her expression caught between anger and concern. For a long moment, neither spoke. The silence was thick with everything unsaid. Finally, Adrian's voice broke. Rough, almost pleading. I don't know how to do this without you. Her chest tightened. She wanted to run, to shield herself from more pain. But she stepped forward instead. You hurt me, she said quietly. You looked at me and saw every person who ever betrayed you. And I'm not them. His eyes shimmered with something raw. I know. Do you? She pressed, voice trembling. Because if you can't trust me, Adrian, then there's no us. No friendship. No future. Nothing. Silence again. He clenched his fists, pride and fear warring in his chest. And then slowly he bowed his head. I'm sorry. The words cracked, unfamiliar on his tongue. I've spent my whole life pushing people away before they could leave me. But you're the first person I don't want to lose. Her breath caught. The wall around her heart quivered. And for the first time, the choice wasn't about whether love was safe. It was about whether it was worth the risk. Maya knelt beside him, gently taking his hand. Her voice was steady, but her eyes glistened. Then don't push me away again. He squeezed her hand, fragile but real. And in that moment, both knew they were choosing love. Imperfect, terrifying, but real. Spring sunlight poured through the wide windows of the rehab center, painting the room in gold. Adrian stood at the parallel bars, his body trembling, but this time not with fear. Maya stood beside him, calm but watchful. Her hand hovered near his, steady just in case. "One step at a time," she murmured. He drew in a shaky breath, set his jaw, and moved forward. His prosthetic leg carried his weight, faltering but holding. He gripped the bar, then released it, forcing his body to trust itself. Step. Wobble. Catch. Step again. And then he let go. He walked. It was uneven, far from graceful, but it was his. For the first time since the accident, he felt free. When he reached the end of the bars, Maya's smile broke wide, tears brimming in her eyes. "Adrian," she whispered. "You did it." He laughed, breathless, shaking his head. "No," he said softly. "We did it." That night, he invited her to the garden terrace outside his penthouse, something he hadn't stepped onto since his wife left. Nervous energy hung between them as the city lights glittered below. "I used to think I'd never let anyone in again," Adrian admitted, voice rough. "Then you showed up. You didn't just heal my body, you reminded me that I'm still worth loving." Maya swallowed hard, her chest aching. "Adrian, when you pushed me away, I almost believed you. I almost believed I wasn't enough. But the truth is, I wasn't scared of you hurting me. I was scared of how much I wanted to stay." He reached for her hand, his grip tender but certain. "Then stay." For a long moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. And then she did. She leaned into him, their foreheads touching, laughter and tears tangled together. For the first time, neither ran. Neither hid. Months later, the rehab center buzzed with whispers as Adrian returned, not as a patient, but as a benefactor. He'd donated a new wing, one dedicated to rehabilitation for trauma survivors, a testament to his journey. But when reporters asked him what inspired the gift, he didn't point to himself. He pointed to her. "To Dr. Maya Carter," he said simply. "The one who taught me that broken doesn't mean finished. And that love, even when you least expect it, can still save you." Maya, standing in the crowd, felt tears blur her vision. Their eyes met across the room, and the smile they shared was quiet, unshakable. Later, as they walked hand in hand through the garden outside the center, Adrian glanced sideways with a crooked grin. "You remember that time I asked you if you could dance?" She laughed. "Of course." "Well," he said, tugging her gently closer, "I think I'm ready to try." And there, under the fading light, with his uneven steps and her guiding arms, they moved together. Not perfect, not polished, but in rhythm all the same. For the first time in a long time, Adrian wasn't haunted by what he had lost. He was grateful for what he had found. Love. Do you believe love can truly find us when we least expect it, even in our most broken moments? Share your story or your hope in the comments. I'd love to hear your heart. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as entertaining and even more intriguing as can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.